Is it on?
Miss, my uncle passed away before Miss Tate did, so she was the holder of the will and the deed to the house.
Hang on, I'm still trying to map this out.
Yes, ma'am.
Stella Tate is your grandmother is Susie White.
Right.
All right. Her sister is Estella Tate.
Yes, ma'am.
Estella Tate was married to Charlie Tate.
Exactly.
And their child was, wait, don't tell me. Their child was the man who died?
Right. Michael Wayne Tate.
Okay. Their child was Michael Wayne Tate.
They adopted him.
Okay. Now, so your mother was Estella Tate?
No, ma'am. Okay. That's my aunt.
Okay. So you're Susie White's
grandson.
Okay. So who's your father?
John Wesley Smith.
Okay. John Smith.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then you. So you are Mr. Davis's cousin, not uncle. Help me.
Yes.
Don Smith was your father, right? Don Smith was your dad?
It's John Smith.
John. All right. John Smith was your dad.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now, who is Michael Tate to you? That Michael Tate then would be your uncle?
Bro.
Or your cousin?
That's my brother.
Okay, that doesn't make any sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Let me explain it to you.
Okay.
My mama, in her marriage, she had 4 kids. I was the baby of the 4. My mom and dad got divorced. My grandmama took the 4 kids and she raised us. Michael Tate came along from a different farm. His name was Michael Smith in the very beginning, but after he was adopted, then his name was changed to Tate. His dad, well, I don't think that's relevant right now, but anyway, so Miss Tate and Charlie Tate, they adopted Michael Tate, which is my brother.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Not particularly, but so he was by adoption your brother.
No, ma'am. By birth, he was my brother. My mama birthed him. A different man.
Got it. All right. So he was adopted. So you're saying that he was your biological brother.
Yes, ma'am.
Who was adopted by your great aunt and uncle.
My grand aunt and uncle.
Okay.
Yes.
Then how's he your brother?
Because we had the same mother.
But legally, I mean, was there a legal adoption by the Tates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You sure about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then Michael Wayne Tate had Marshawn Davis.
Right.
Okay. Any other heirs besides you and Mr. Davis?
Oh, well, Michael had 4 other sisters and 4 other brothers.
Okay, from the Tates or from the Smiths?
4 from the Smith and 5 from the Stewart.
Okay. Now, was the will, or not the will, but was the estate of Michael Tate in court?
No, ma'am.
So there's been no estate created or pursued of Michael Tate?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So tell me what happened with Mr. Davis.
So Mr. Davis faxed me the paperwork from the attorney's office, his attorney's office during the settlement, which were the interrogatories. And he asked me if I could do those for him because he didn't have any knowledge of my side of the family. And most of the questions that were being asked in the interrogatory were questions that pertain to my side of the family. So I did the interrogatories for him. And when he came to pick them up, this is when I showed him the contract and he signed it and agreed to it.
And you showed him what contract?
The contract that I had written up between he and I.
Okay, and that was with regard to the sale of the house?
That was regards to the sale of the house, the funeral expenses, and the settlement.
Okay, do you have a copy of that, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, have you given that to the other side, or I don't know if the other side's out?
Well, he said that he was going to send me some information in the mail, and I never received it. And that was over the holidays, so I figured maybe it would, take a little longer than, it would normally take. But I still haven't received that information.
Okay, now, Mr. Smith, how am I going to see the contract you're talking about?
I don't know, if I held it up to the camera, could you see it?
Let's try. Okay, what's the date on it, sir?
11/20/19.
Okay, so that was after your brother's death.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is it signed by Mr. Davis?
4 times.
All right, why don't you read it to us?
Ma'am?
Read it to us, please.
Okay, it states, Kenneth Smith, 118 Woodland Circle, Brunswick, Georgia, 31525, dated 11/2019. Marshawn Davis, agreed to give my uncle, the brother of my deceased father, for all participation in duties, burial expenses, planning and providing information of knowledge, and for developing of the lawsuit of Michael Tate's wrongful death settlement, which the law firm of Prieto, Mariano, I can't really pronounce it, and Holbert at 5909 Peachtree, Dunwoody Road, Building B Suite 1001, Atlanta, Georgia, 30328. Is in charge of. Okay, that means that they were in charge of. And then again, it says here, I, Marshawn Davis, agree to the allowance of 50% of all total allowance and award the case at settlement be awarded to Kenneth Smith, the deceased.
Okay, so read that last part to me again. Talking there, does it speak there about the lawsuit?
Yes, ma'am. It says, I, Marshawn Davis, agree the allowances of 50% of total allowances and awards of case at settlement be awarded to Kenneth D. Smith, the deceased. That was for my participation and my knowledge and all the other information that I gave the attorney. Matter of fact, I was the one that introduced him to Mike. I was referred to Mike by
Okay, why didn't you attach that to your lawsuit? Mr. Smith, can you hear me, sir? He seems to have frozen a bit here. Mr. Smith, can you hear me? Mr.
I can
Steve,
hear you.
if you're talking, you're on mute, so.
I didn't hear the last minute and a half of anything that he said.
Okay. Mr. Smith, I think your camera may be frozen, your computer may be frozen. Why did you not attach that contract or that agreement to your lawsuit?
Well, I think it was necessary. I just filed a claim in the Fulton County Bureau.
Because there's no way really for me to consider that unless you can, do you have the ability to scan into the computer and send it?
No, ma'am. Let's see. My grandson may know how to do it.
Okay, is he there?
Yes, ma'am. Just 1 second.
Okay, let's get the grandson.
Davis. Davis. Hey. Hey. Did you send this?
Get to the point where we start talking about sharing screen.
He said he don't know how to.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. So you signed, where did you sign the agreement? Where were you located physically?
At my house. He was here. He came to pick up.
In Brunswick.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you read me the whole agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what happened next? What conversations or what sort of discussions did you have? So you took Mr. Davis to the courthouse and you changed the title to your brother's Mr. Tate's house.
Well, it was not his house. It still had belonged to my uncle, but he died, and then my aunt passed away as well, and everything was all the paperwork was given to me because I was the one that was in care of my brother Mike.
Okay.
Outside of the nursing home.
Okay. And do you have any documents showing that, sir?
That I was in charge of him?
Yes.
Oh, no, not in writing.
Did the nursing home give you any paperwork?
Oh, yeah. They sent all his stuff to me from the nursing home after he passed.
Okay. Did you sign anything at the nursing home?
The only thing I signed at the nursing home was to, like, when I go pick him up to take him out, something like that, I signed the release papers and then I sign him in when I get him.
Okay. And did the nursing home send you any bill?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay. Did your brother, and I'm going to use a term here that you may or may not be familiar with, did your brother or did Mr. Tate give you what's called a power of attorney?
No, ma'am. My cousin.
Go ahead.
No, ma'am. My cousin James Fuller was the power of attorney. After he passed away, then that's when everything was turned over to me. Just it wasn't in writing, but I just took responsibility.
Okay. All right. So who was Mr. Fuller to Mr. Tate?
He was his legal, he was the power of attorney.
Okay. What family relationship?
Oh, he was cousin.
Oh, to Mr. Tate?
To Mr. Tate, and well, really to Mr. Stella Tate. He was a nephew, but to me and Michael, he was a cousin.
Okay. Okay. And so after Mr. Fuller died, was Mr. Tate still alive?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yes,
so
he was.
Mr. Fuller died. Mr. Tate is still alive.
Right.
What happened to Mr. Tate as far as his legal affairs after that?
Well, I did the best I could with what I knew. And then after Mr. Fuller died, his wife gave me all the other paperwork, the insurance policy and bank statements and things of that nature.
Okay, what kind of shape was Mr. Tate in when Mr. Fuller died?
Well, my brother had lost his leg in his early 20s, and he recovered from that pretty well. But the reason why he wound up in the nursing home was because he burnt himself and he didn't get medical attention, and the wound got infected and he went into a coma vision. He was on life support here in Brunswick, Georgia at the hospital, and they were gonna pull the plug on him, but I fought against it, and God spared him. And I promised God if he would spare him, that I would take care of him to the best of my ability. And that's what I did.
Okay, now, at his, did you have a funeral for Mr. Tate?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was that funeral?
R.L. Jones and Son.
And what town?
Brunswick, Georgia.
Okay, and who came to the funeral?
Who came to the funeral?
Yes, sir.
My brothers and sisters, some cousins. Do I need to call names or?
No, did Mr. Davis come to the funeral?
Oh yeah, he came. Him and I think two of his aunts was with him.
Where did Mr. Tate's personal items go, like his furniture and so forth?
Well, Mr. Fuller's son was living in the house.
Okay.
Mr. Fuller called me and asked me if it would be all right for him to dwell there because the empty house would go down fast. And I agreed to it. And I don't know just what happened to any of the furniture or anything like that.
Okay. All right. So what were the circumstances around which you signed this agreement with Mr. Davis? This would have been
in the very beginning, before we even pursued the settlement, we agreed that if anything came out of it, that it would be split 50-50. That way I couldn't say he got any more than I did, and I couldn't say he got any more. I got any more than he did. So that was just a verbal agreement. But after he sold the house, then it raised suspicion. I said to myself, he didn't pay me what the $2,500 that he owed me after he sold the house. So I knew if he couldn't be faithful in small things, he weren't going to be faithful in big things. That's why.
So the house was sold before November 20th, 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
He sold the house before we got the paperwork done.
Okay. And I think I've asked this question before, so pardon me for asking it again if I did.
Yes, ma'am. That's all right.
Was there anything in court in either Glenn County or Chatham County about Mr. Tate's estate?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Now, why did you think there was a case against the nursing home?
Well, I'm the one that pursued it. But once I pursued it and I talked with the attorney, that's when he told me that it had to be the closest of kin. So I called Marshawn and I discussed it with him. And that's when we started having the meetings of the minds and putting all this stuff together.
Okay.
I did my own investigation and everything to find out exactly what took place because nobody wanted to tell me anything. They kept me going around in circles, but I got to the bottom of it.
Okay. And who chose the attorney?
Who chose the attorney?
Yes.
I'm the one that got in touch with Mike. And that's when I found out that I was not able to pursue the lawsuit, that the closest of kin was the one that had to pursue it. And so I called him and I told him what I had discovered and shared the information with him.
Well, who first talked to the attorney or attorneys who handled the case against the nursing home?
Me,
Okay.
I did.
And that was the attorney up here in Atlanta?
Yes, ma'am. I was referred to him by Spiver, the law firm Spiver.
Could you spell that name, please?
Spiver.
Could you spell it?
It's S-P-I-V-A.
Okay, Spiver. Okay. All right. Did you sign anything with the law firm?
No, ma'am, I didn't. And the reason being was that I was here in Brunswick and he was in Atlanta. Marshawn was in Atlanta and Mike's office was in Atlanta. So he could handle that end of it and I do what I could on this end. Okay.
How much did you spend on the funeral?
Total expenses for the funeral was $7,000. I only paid, he had a $5,000 insurance policy.
Okay.
And I paid the rest of it.
So you paid
$2,000 to the funeral home, but the $500 was for other expenses like his clothing, his suit, and things of that nature.
Okay, so for Mr. Tate's funeral, you're owed $2,500.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What else did you pay on Mr. Tate's behalf?
Well, during the time that he was in the nursing home, I was his sole provider far as money, clothing, and things of that nature. Radios that kept walking off.
Okay, how much was that? All that?
Over, I would say, probably about $2,000 over his entire stay.
Okay. What other money did you spend out of pocket?
I really didn't keep up with everything because nobody ever thought that this would take place, you know. Okay. And if I would much rather have my brother here with me right now today. This thing is getting to kind of get to me now. Just give me a second, please, man.
Sure.
Michael and I were very close. Out of all 9 kids, he and I probably were the closest. But what I did for my brother, I did it out of pure love. And I do it all over again.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to let Mr. Stevens ask you some questions in a minute. Is there anything else you want to tell me before he gets to ask you questions?
Well, is it any way possible that, is it too late for me to send you the paperwork that I have? Are you going to make a judgment today? Well,
this is a final trial. This is a final trial. And yeah, we'll go ahead and deal with that in a minute. Mr. Stevens, okay. Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Smith, just for my clarification, we broke up a good bit during that exchange there, which I know that's the way things are right now. So just to clarify, you are not Mr. Tate is your brother, Mr. Tate. Michael Wayne Tate was adopted by another family member.
Yes, he was adopted by my grand aunt and uncle. Okay,
so and they became his parents.
Right.
Legally adopted by those 2 people, they became his parents.
Right.
Okay. All right. So when and let's go back to this house that you're talking about. What's the address of the house that you're talking about?
2219 Martin Luther King Boulevard, Brunswick, Georgia, 31520.
Okay, and your testimony was that you transferred that. Did you administer an estate for the person that owned the house, or was there a will that you probated in a court somewhere?
Yes, sir. And the will I have the will right now.
Okay.
And
Do you have any documents?
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I hear you now.
Okay, I hear you.
I think your question, Mr. Stevens, was, did you have any documents? That's where we lost you.
Correct.
You want
Any-
to,
Yes. Do you have any? Did you have a petition to probate the will of that person or?
No, I left all that up to the judge. When I took the paperwork to the courthouse, the judge handled all of that.
Okay.
I was just there as a witness.
How did you transfer that property to Marshawn?
Because I have the will, and I took the will, the deed to the house and the will to the probate court.
Okay.
So the
and
courts, the
when was
courts were
this?
the
What
one.
year was this?
This was the same year my brother passed away. 17.
Okay. So you're telling me, so this house was transferred by you into Marshawn's name?
It was transferred by the courts to Marshawn's name.
Okay.
I
Do you
just
have
had,
any, do you have any quit claim deeds or documentary evidence of that?
I have the deed to the house.
Okay. Do you have the quit claim deed or whatever transfer you did to Marshawn?
No, I believe he had that.
Okay. And so when your brother passed away, Mr. Tate
Now
passed
I hear
away.
you. I hear you now.
Okay. Okay. When Mr. Tate passed away, you alleged that you engaged or you engaged the Spiva firm who referred you to the Prieto firm. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. And what did they tell you as why you weren't able to be the plaintiff in the lawsuit?
Well, Mike Prieto told me that I had to be the closest of kin. The first thing he asked me, did my brother have any children? And I said yes. And he said that he would have to be the one to sue the lawsuit. So I called him.
So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I got crossed up there. So it's true that Marshawn Davis is the sole heir of Michael Wayne Tate.
Exactly. Exactly.
And your brother did not have a will?
No, sir.
Okay. Is it true that Mr. Davis, in order to become a plaintiff in this lawsuit, he would have to open an estate for Michael Wayne Tate?
I think so. I think so.
Isn't it true that Mr. Davis filed a petition for letters of administration in Chatham County on or about April 9th of 2018 for the estate of Michael Wayne Tate?
I think that was a very...
Mr. Stevens, who did that?
Marshawn Davis.
2019?
2018, April 9th of 2018 is when the petition was filed. Were you aware of that, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you do know that there's an estate of Michael Wayne Tate that exists.
Well, now.
Okay.
I think that had to be formed before he could even pursue the settlement.
Exactly.
Right.
And you're aware that you can't pursue a lawsuit for someone who's deceased unless you have someone stand in their shoes, correct?
Someone stand in their shoes.
Essentially represent the estate in the lawsuit.
Yes.
Okay. So this, you said something earlier about interrogatories.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
What interrogatories did you fill out?
The interrogatories that he faxed to me from his lawyer's firm.
Okay. And what,
And
what
I
how many
believe
interrogatories?
those interrogatories came from the opposing firm.
Okay. And so how many interrogatories did you answer?
Let's see, I got them right here. It was 24.
Okay.
Wait a minute, I'm wrong. Yeah, 24.
Okay. What were those, to what did those interrogatories pertain? What kind of question were they, about family members?
About my side of the family, my sisters and brothers, my mother, my father, and so on.
Okay.
That's all my side of the family. He don't know any my side of the family.
Okay. So
Except for me, he don't know me that well.
So he needed you to answer those interrogatories about your side of the family to keep the lawsuit going.
Right.
Okay. And about what date did you do that?
It had to be, I'm not exactly sure, but it was in November of 2019.
Okay. And so this alleged contract that you signed, was that done? Did you give him the interrogatories?
Yeah, yes, I did.
And the purpose of that contract, or the alleged contract, is I give you these answers and I share, and I give you these answers and you have to share in the lawsuit with me. Is that right?
No, that was discussed before we even got this far into the law.
Why didn't you put it in writing then?
I didn't think it was necessary until I found that he wasn't a man of his word. Once he had sold the house and didn't do what he promised me he was going to do, that's when I said, I got to get something in writing.
But there's nothing in writing about that real estate transaction, though, is there?
About the house?
Yeah.
Let's see. No, there's nothing in this contract concerning.
Okay.
Because I was going to give him the house anyway.
But you said earlier that you did give him the house.
I did. I did. Because I held all the paperwork concerning the deed and I could have taken in the funeral home the deed in return for the funeral, but I didn't do that because I wanted him to have something from his father.
Did this house belong to Michael Wayne Tate at any time?
No, it didn't.
Okay. All right. Other than answering 24 interrogatories, did you participate in the lawsuit in any other way?
Oh yes, I supplied all kind of information to him and Mike.
Okay, like what?
I don't remember all the questions that were asked, but it was like about family members and about I explained to them, matter of fact, to Mike, what had happened at the nursing home.
Okay. Did you attend any mediations?
No, I didn't, because Mr. Davis never would inform me on anything like that. It's very, I think I might have. The last time I asked him about talking to Mike, he had put somebody on the phone, and I don't think it was Mike, because they just didn't talk like an attorney.
Okay. All right.
So I don't.
Isn't it true, Mr. Smith, that you met Mr. Davis when all this happened?
No, I knew him when he was born.
Okay.
I remember when he was.
I'm sorry. Over the years of his life, how much contact did you have with Mr. Davis?
Very little. Very little.
Okay. All right. And
I had a hard time even finding him after his dad died, but somehow I managed to get in touch with him. I don't remember just how.
Okay. All right. that's all I have right now, Your Honor. I can send the court a copy, or I can email the court a copy of the petition for letters of administration of Michael Wayne Tate if you'd like for me to do that.
Is that estate still open? It's
still open as far as I know, Judge. It's been open for a while. I don't know if it's been closed out yet, but it's been filed in Chatham County. $164 filing fee was paid. As far as I know, it remains open, but,
hang on, I'm going to, Mr. Smith, is there anything else you would like to tell me before I let Mr. Stevens, proceed with his side of the case?
I don't think so.
Okay, Mr. Stevens, would you like to call your first witness?
I would, Judge, but at this time, I'd like to do a motion for a directed verdict. There's no documentary evidence of any of these agreements. There's nothing been submitted to this court with this complaint or today in this final hearing that the court can consider as far as any of these expenses, anything about this lawsuit. You've heard the testimony of Mr. Smith where he was not a participant in the lawsuit. He couldn't even be a plaintiff. And technically he's not even biologically related to the decedent at this point. So he was not an heir in the estate. Mr. Davis is the sole heir of the estate. And that, without the testimony about the real estate contract, if there was one, it has to be done in writing per the statute of fraud. So any kind of real estate transaction has to be in writing. And this contract was open-ended. The one that he's talking about, that we don't have, is open-ended with no numbers to go on, no dates to go on, no parameters whatsoever. And nothing was submitted to my client for him to do anything. This just came out of the blue with this lawsuit, and I believe that this is a directed verdict should be granted here for the lack of any evidence whatsoever at this final hearing.
All right, I'm going to take your motion under advisement. If you'd like to proceed to call your first witness.
Very well. Marshawn, will you unmute, please?
Yes, sir.
Come on video long enough for me to swear him in. He's going to have to come on video.
Okay, I'm coming.
Okay. Great, thanks. Could you raise your right hand where I can see it, sir? Mr. Davis, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Okay, Mr. Stevens?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Davis, can you state your name and age for the record, please?
My name is Marshawn Davis. I'm 38 years old, and Michael Wayne Tate was my father.
Okay. And where do you currently reside, Mr. Davis?
I reside in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to address a couple of things that Mr. Smith said earlier about this case, and I want to just clarify some things with you. He mentioned a house that was transferred to your name. Is that something that you remember, Mr. Davis?
I was told that the house, I don't know from my understanding that the house was in Charles Tate name, right? Okay. And that I had to go down and do some paperwork and everything to get the deeds and everything and get the property in my name. As I went at hearing Mr. Smith say that he took me down there, he never took me nowhere personally. I always came down from Atlanta, Georgia, and went and handled everything that I needed to handle inside the court. Was he notified of things like that? Yes, he was, but he never took me to go and do these things. Okay. As I went to the courthouses and everything, I had to find out who was all the people that had affiliation with the property. And by them being deceased, I had to get, once I really got the deeds and everything, I had to pay all the back taxes and everything that was on the property for me to get anything in my hands first.
Okay, so was this property in your father's name at all at any point?
It was never in his name.
So why did Mr. Smith give it to you?
What did he give me?
So he didn't give you this property?
How I don't get how he gave me the property. I went down to find out what I had to do by me being the only child to get the property in my name to be able to get it to me. I mean, he never gave me no property. As far as my knowledge, I went through the court to get that property.
Okay, by the court, you mean Chatham County?
Glenn County.
Glenn County. Okay, so this is a separate and distinct estate in Glenn County then.
Yeah, he's only had one estate, and that he only had that the house was only in Brunswick, Georgia. He was in the nursery home and passed away in the nursery home in Chatham County.
But this property was never in your father's name.
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So was it included? He said there was a transaction with this house. Was there a transaction with this house?
What kind of transaction?
A real
sir?
estate transaction, a closing, a transfer, a sale, anything like that?
Yeah, I sold it.
Okay. All right. And you sold it. You were the owner of the house and you sold it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You did not inherit this house from your dad.
No, sir.
Okay.
As far as when he passed away and when being that they said that the house was from Charles Tate and my dad was his son and everything, it passes down to his son, Michael Tate's son, which is me.
Okay. So let's get to the lawsuit portion of this thing. So you engaged is it true that you engaged the Prieto firm to handle this lawsuit for your dad's death?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you open an estate in your dad's name?
Yes, sir.
Where was that estate located?
Glenn County.
What county?
Glenn County, Brunswick, Georgia.
Okay. Well, was it Chatham County?
No, Glenn County.
Okay. All right. In any event, so you were sworn in as the administrator of the estate. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that how you were able to pursue the lawsuit for your dad?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, I can't say that estate had anything to do with the lawsuit. That was totally something separate and different.
Okay. Were you instructed by the Prieto firm that you had to open an estate to continue this lawsuit?
Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Is it by you saying the estate? Are you saying by me going and having to do anything with that property, with that home?
When you submitted did you submit your dad's death certificate and a petition to the court to get yourself sworn in as administrator?
Yes, I did that, but I didn't have Mr. Mike. They wasn't my lawyer then.
Okay. All right. So, but you were sworn in as administrator of the estate.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So as administrator of the estate, and are you the sole heir of the Michael Wayne Tate estate?
Yes, sir.
You didn't have any other children?
No, sir.
You didn't have a wife?
No, sir.
Okay. And the case that you did with, you had some interrogatories that you presented to Mr. Smith. Is that right?
Yeah, asking him some questions about the question that they was asking me to answer, because I don't know that side of the family. I don't know anyone. And I was asking him about it. I was trying to do that with him over the phone, but he was so consistent about me coming down from Atlanta to come get those answers from him.
Why did you have to go down to him to get those answers?
I felt like he wanted me to come down so he could do what he did in front of me with that contract. Far as him coercing me up under the influence and telling me that this case can't go no further if I don't have these questions and all, and I'm gonna lose it and ain't nothing gonna happen about. And if I don't sign it, I won't get nothing. He won't get nothing. He'll tear it up right here in front of my face. Those I felt like those were the reasons of him getting me down to Brunswick, Georgia, to sign those papers. It wasn't for me to get those answers. It was for that particular situation.
So the answers that you were looking for were just simply questions about the family?
Yes, and I was told by the secretary of the firm that I really didn't need those questions, that they could do something to go bypass those questions and all. But I told her, she said, but do the best that I can to get the answers. So that's why I went to Mr. Kenny.
Okay, and that was from the side of the family that you didn't know?
No, I didn't know none of them answers. I couldn't answer them. I don't know nobody.
So that was the only route you had to answer these questions?
Yes. But that wasn't the only route, but she said, answer it and do the best that I can. And whatever we don't come up with, we can go around it and bypass it. However, they was going to do it petition-wise.
Okay. And at any time, did you agree to any amount or any specific amount for Mr. Smith, or any time frames about anything about this?
I could never tell him no amount when I don't know no amount that I'm receiving. Or will I don't how can I tell somebody that when I don't know that?
And this purported contract that that he's alleging that exists, this is not something that you agreed to. This if there was an agreement that you did you do this agreement voluntarily?
I did that. No, that wasn't voluntarily, because of the simple fact of he telling me that I'm gonna lose this case if I don't get those answers to those people in the correct time frame that they asked me. We was already up under a time frame which ain't gave us no time. I had a couple of days left to get it. I didn't agree to what he was saying on that paper. I always told him, whatever come about this, then we're gonna work this out, and you can get something. But for him talking about half and anything, I don't even know what I'm getting to give you half. First and foremost, and secondly, how can you file a lawsuit on me before I ever received any funds? Before the case was completed, this lawsuit was already on me.
Okay. Mr. Davis, is the estate in Chatham or Glenn County that you talked about earlier, is it still open as far as you know?
As far as I know, I think it's closed, sir. I believe everything is already settled.
Did Mr. Smith present anything to you as far as funeral expenses or anything that he expended on behalf of your father?
Oh, he just always told me what he had paid on it and everything. And I talked to the funeral home owner, and then I gave him what I gave him. My uncle said, Mr. Smith said that I owed it something else. And I was like, well, you know what? This is what Mr. Jones is telling me. But he was trying, what Mr. Smith was telling me, Mr. Jones was telling me a whole different amount. But I still paid Mr. Jones.
You already paid the funeral expenses?
I paid rest that was owed that he kept calling me on.
Okay, how much was that?
I have her, like his wife and all, because as I kept trying to get them to get me the receipt, but she called me back one day and she said that I see that everything is already paid off.
How much money did you pay? Is it R.L. Jones Funeral Home? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
How much money did you pay R.L. Jones?
I gave him $1,800.
Okay, so your account with them is settled?
Yes, he told me to give him $1,800.
Okay. All right. Did anybody submit any expenses of the estate to you while you were the administrator?
No, sir.
Okay. Anybody in the family send you anything saying, hey, Mr. Tate owes me this money?
No, sir.
Or send you a receipt of any kind or any documents of any kind?
No, sir.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
All right, Mr. Smith, do you have any questions of Mr. Davis? You can't argue with him. You can't just say things that you might otherwise want to tell me. But if you have any specific questions about what he just testified to, you can ask him at this time.
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Let's see, Mr. Davis, I have some questions for you, sir. When did you go to open your dad's estate? Do you remember that?
I don't remember the dates and time or anything, ma'am. All I know is, Your Honor, that I just kept having to go back and forth to Brunswick to handle those situations.
Okay, do you
So,
remember the year? You posted-
like 2018, I know.
Now, do you remember signing the agreement that Mr. Smith has talked about?
Yes, ma'am, I remember it. He actually coerced me in saying that what he was gonna tear it up. He was telling me that I'm gonna lose the case. He was just telling me all the things that wouldn't make me sign it on my own.
Okay. And at this time, you don't have a final number from the wrongful death lawsuit.
No, at the time that he filed the lawsuit, Your Honor, it wasn't no amount. It wasn't settled. I haven't been to no arbitration. I haven't been to anything at that point.
Okay.
I was still waiting on those dates to come about. Maybe he thought that I already had received something, but I never did. And I didn't call him to tell him I didn't receive nothing once I seen that he actually went on ahead and did that and put that in, and I never had anything yet.
Okay. Now you say that you only signed the agreement to get the interrogatory answers. Is that correct?
Nah, I didn't sign it to get those answered. I just wanted the case to continue to keep going, far as the secretary telling me that do the best that I can. If I can get the answers, go ahead and get those answers. So it would make it more easier for them on presenting this case.
Okay. Did you read it before you signed it?
I breezed over it. I read it.
Okay. Did you intend to sign it?
I didn't intend to sign that, knowing that he's asking me for half or something, and I don't even know what is half and what can I give him that was half. And then by me signing that paper, it was all being from the coercion of him towards me. Of, I tear this up right here in front of you right now and won't nothing happen no more. You won't get nothing. And it wasn't even about no money. It's not about none of that with me, regardless. Like, only thing I ever, like, personal properties and stuff of my father, they all received that. Whoever the family members is. Only thing I ever wanted was the guitar that I know my father loved to play. That's the only thing. I didn't care about no house. I didn't want no house. All those things is what they kept trying to push me to do. And I'm a very mature and very grown man that I can see when people are trying to push me to do things for their behalf and their luxury.
Did you visit your dad in the nursing home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when's the last time you saw your dad live?
The last time I saw him alive was probably like 4 weeks before I got the phone call, before he passed.
Okay. And did you have a relationship with your dad when you were growing up?
A very great relationship.
Did you live with him?
No, ma'am.
And on your birth certificate, does it show that Mr. Tate was your dad?
I didn't see that on my birth certificate or nothing.
Okay. Is your mother alive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was she married to Mr. Tate?
No, ma'am.
Did Mr. Tate acknowledge you as his son when you were growing up?
Every day.
All right. Any further questions on anything I've asked?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Stevens?
None from my side, Your Honor, no. I can submit the petition for letters of administration if you'd like through email.
Okay. All right. Anything further, Mr. Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Davis knew what our agreement was from the very beginning. I first told him about settlement case. And when I realized that he was not a man of his word, I spoke to my cousin who's an attorney, and he told me the best thing to do is something in writing. And from the scriptures, which I firmly believe in, it states that if a man is not faithful in small things, he won't be faithful in big things. And I stick to that. So that is the reason why he came to pick up the interrogatory, and he was rushing me. I had even had the interrogatories after I wrote them up. I took it, had it typed out nice and legibly and professionally. And when he came to pick them up, I had to hurry up and get something in writing so he could sign, because I knew that he was not a man of his. And as soon as he got the interrogatory, he cut me off. He wouldn't answer his phone. He never would call me or anything. I said, thank God I got that. And that was his intention from the very beginning. I told him that day when he came to pick up the interrogatory, he performed. But anyway, I didn't force him to sign anything. I told him if he didn't sign the sign the contract, that I would not help him no further in the case.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Why don't you talk to me before you say anything, Mr. Davis?
Ma'am?
Mr.
Marshawn, oh, sorry, Judge.
Go ahead.
Marshawn, were you talking to somebody else or were you talking to us?
I was talking to Your Honor.
Okay. Before you address the judge, is there something that you want to say, Marshawn, about this case?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Your Honor, is that okay as a rebuttal?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead, Marshawn.
When, like Mr. Smith said, that we verbally had a conversation and agreement that, you know, I would do something for you. It was never no amount on nothing, a half or anything. Like when I got to his place, that agreement stated half of everything. And I feel like for someone to tell me that they're gonna tear this up in front of me if I don't sign, that because I hesitated for a while before I even signed that paper, because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking like, what, I don't know what to do no more about him telling me that if he gonna tear this up if I don't sign it, and this case is just gone to waste. I didn't take my time and take off my job and lose money and stuff like that for this case to somebody to sit here and tell me, you telling me this, and that's having drinking with me. What, you gonna tear this up and ain't nothing gonna happen? That made me, Your Honor, stuck. I didn't know what to do. So I ran to my lawyer and I told him everything that happened. Soon as that happened, and my lawyer told me, don't contact him, don't say nothing. We would deal with this in court. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't stay away from him for my own judgment, because me and him had our own agreement, and that's what we were sticking on. Everything I touch, everything that's my father's, you want a piece of it, you want this, you want that. Okay, well, we're gonna work that out. But he put a lawsuit on me before this court and case was even finalized, because I was told and advised by my attorney to not say nothing no more to him.
Okay.
Because I told him exactly how things had went down.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Marshawn, that's good. Thank you, sir.
All
Thank you.
right. think I have the gist of everyone's case and everyone's presentation. And I would just like to call to everybody's attention that we sent you a notice on April the 18th of this year. And that notice, which Mr. Stevens has mentioned earlier, states the trial will be held via the Zoom conference application and in courtroom 8A. So we try to give everybody an option of how they'd like to appear and present their case. So you had the ability to appear as you are appearing over Zoom, and that was sent out in April, and the reason for that is very clearly, in part, the coronavirus and the emergency that ensued therefrom. But it also gave you the old-fashioned right to come to court. And had you come to court, everybody probably, I guess, would have had the documents necessary to prove this case to the court. I understand and appreciate that Mr. Smith is representing himself and is not represented by a lawyer today, but obviously he's talked to lawyers, and there were many resources available, at least in the Atlanta area, if he felt like he needed to have a lawyer. So Mr. Stevens, if you could take some notes, please, sir. I need you to prepare a final judgment.
Very well, ma'am. Hang on, let me get a pen real quick and some paper.
Sure.
Your Honor.
Wait one second. Thank
Oh,
you.
yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, Your Honor, I'm prepared.
All right. The court finds, as a matter of fact, that Mr. Michael Tate was not the brother of Mr. Kenneth Smith. Legally, everyone has testified that he was adopted by the Tates under Georgia law that severed or concluded any relationship that he had biologically. And therefore, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I certainly could be, but I believe he was the first cousin once removed of Mr. Smith, or as we know that, that's an old-fashioned way, as we know it under Georgia law, I believe that's second cousins. So that's just a finding of fact. Number two, and the only direct heir of Michael Tate is Marshawn Davis. Number two, Mr. Smith is not entitled to anything from the sale of the house, and that's under the statute of frauds. I think there's a number of ways to get to this, but as I understand it, the house was transferred in 2017, and this agreement, which we'll talk about in a minute, was not signed until 2019. So the house was transferred before any agreement, and any agreement regarding the proceeds from the house would have had to have been in writing. All right, number three, any funeral expenses paid for by Mr. Smith would rightfully be submitted to the probate court. If the estate has been fully administered, I have no idea whether there is any provision or procedure by which that can be reopened. I don't know if Mr. Smith was listed as an heir. I don't know if he was sent any paperwork by the probate court, but if there are unpaid funeral expenses or unpaid last illness expenses, those are certainly something that Mr. Smith could pursue through the probate court. And then finally, with regard to the agreement signed, that both parties have sworn under oath that there was an agreement entered into. The court is not, repeat, not reaching the question of whether that agreement was void. I am not declaring it as void under any testimony that I have received with regard to coercion, duress. Those are pretty high bars in Georgia, and I'm not making a ruling on that. Rather, it just hadn't been proved. You had your opportunity to come into court and show me that agreement. You could have driven up here. You could have sent it to us ahead of time. You could have filled out your portion of the pretrial order. You could have attached it to the case and to the lawsuit. And I just don't know what in the world. You held it up to the camera. You told me what was in it, but I'm not even sure I know everything that was in it. So again, maybe there's an argument out there for coercion. I'm not finding it because there just wasn't any agreement presented to the court, and therefore judgment is denied.
I didn't hear you, Your Honor.
Judgment is denied. In other words, you lose. Now, I'm not going to be awarding you any attorney's fees, Mr. Stevens, and therefore this case is concluded. If you will present an order to the court and send a copy to Mr. Smith, we'll take care of it on our end.
Very well, Judge.
All right.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
reason why I didn't come and appear in court because I was diagnosed with corona, and I'm supposed to hear from the health department here today in Brunswick, Georgia, to find out whether I'm clear or not. The reason why I'm not wearing my mask is because I'm going to make a good presentation before. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Understood. And Mr. Smith, I enjoyed meeting you, sir, and I appreciate you being present with us.